Hi and welcome to another HanDrinksSolo wine info video, and today we travel to the region of Abruzzo in central Italy so that we can experience the Masciarelli Trebbiano dAbruzzo 2021. Now, it would be ever so lovely for me to be able to tell you that Masciarelli are a small artisanal producer where nonno presses the grapes from his vineyard while nonna rolls spliffs from freshly made pasta sheets. But it's just not true. Masciarelli are full on. For this particular wine, their Trebbiano dAbruzzo alone, they produce 150,000 bottles. So this is rather large by South African standards. And what happens is often passionate wine lovers all of a sudden become very suspicious, almost like the moment a producer goes past 70,000 bottles, it's like, oh, the weight of all that wine presses down on the soul of the producer, squeezing out any trace of the milk of human kindness. But if we think about it just a little bit, you realize that larger producers often have better hygiene protocols, better safety protocols. And let's be honest, nonna and nonno don't always wait for that athlete's foot infection to clear up before trading the grapes from their most recent harvest. And you might ask, okay, so what's the deal with Trebbiano? And I'd say, well, in Italy at least, Trebbiano is far more complicated than it needs to be, because there are a whole bunch of grapes, all of which go by the name of Trebbiano, even though they have other names that would totally clear up any confusion between one Trebbiano and the next. I mean, it's like, imagine there are three brothers, right? Demas, Peter, and Mordecai. They all have different names, right? Clearly, but they've all got the same second name, Petunia. Now, it would make absolutely no sense if all three brothers on one day decided that from henceforth we will all be called Petunia. Confusion would reign. And that's exactly what Trebbiano has done in Italy, because you have Trebbiano di Lugano, which also has the name Trebbiano, but no, Trebbiano is what they want to stick with. Then you have Trebbiano Toscana, which is also Trebbiano Giallo, both of which are the same grape as Uni Blanc. So they could go by the name of Uni Blanc, but that's French, so we won't do that. No, we'll stick with Trebbiano. And then there's a whole bunch of other Trebbianos, which we won't go into now. But the point is, there's really no need to have so many grapes called Trebbiano, but I guess it does depend on your perspective. A fair counterpoint is that Trebbiano called by any other name would still smell as sweet. So let's see if that's true. Now, the nose on this guy is pretty full on. You've got some really overt fresh white pear. You've got some peach fruit going on there. There's a little bit of a stony factor in there, and also some kind of lemon blossom notes. And all of these aromas are pretty classic for a Trebbiano Toscana. But let's see if those flavors carry on to the palate. I think what I enjoy so much about this is the contrast between the impression of the nose and what's on the palate. So the nose is fairly fresh, fairly light, but when you take a sip, what you get is quite a concentrated wave of that stone fruit, and there's also a lot of texture. So you got your peach notes up front. It's not hugely complex, but the texture morphs into a slightly drier, pithier, almost citrus-like mid-palate, and that's really interesting. The other thing to note is that there's obviously no oak on this wine at all. It's fermented in stainless steel, it's matured in stainless steel, so all the texture that you're tasting really comes from the fruit and from the lees. And if you don't know what lees are, well, lees are really the dead yeast cells that are left once fermentation is all finished. And at some point, these yeast cells burst open and spill their guts into the wine, but in a good way. This process is called autolysis, and the end result is all the yeast cell innards end up in the wine and contribute a lovely feathery texture to it. In fact, the practice of batonnage, where you stir the lees up, is meant to increase the effect of the lees on the wine, which not only adds texture, but also can add those flavors of sourdough or brioche or other notes to do with baking. Okay, so that's all we have time for today, but if you have questions about Masciarelli or about Trebbiano or about Abruzzo, feel free to drop them in the comment section below. And if you're watching this on YouTube, then why not subscribe to the HanDrinksSolo wine channel so that you can stay up to date with the weekly videos that I publish on South African wine and on the occasional Italian wine as well.